So a few days ago, I made a video about the self-eating of the alt-right, or at least how I start, or noticed the start of it, rather. To explain that concept further, self-eating refers to basically different groups in the alt-right going at each other's throats. Basically the same principle that they were using to diagnose problems later on in the election season with the left, though with the right it's happening at almost a seemingly light speed rate compared to the left. Um, this kind of coincides with it. As we know, the new media is basically us average Joes who turn on a webcam. Um, so one of the problems I noticed, even back then, they put their own little title on it. They call it lionization. Really, it's just fanboying. Basically, the act of putting people into basically infallible status, as we've seen with people like Sargon of Akkad, Stefan Molyneux, Styx Hexenhammer, and all these other people. And this comes into, and not even YouTubers like Milo Yiannopoulos, Gavin McInnes. People put these uh, pundits essentially on a pedestal and treat them as though they cannot do wrong. Um, and that really sets up really shitty situations for the right when Milo said a year ago, like, oh yeah, 13-year-olds, or implied 13-year-olds having sex with grown men, if they're boys, is beneficial to these young boys. And then you have a legion of right-wing retards defending this dude. It, it doesn't do any good for your movement at all. Um, and I think it's because they saw this guy as an infallible person. I myself, as you all know, um, I looked up to Styx Hexenhammer. I watched that guy for like 7 years before I stopped watching him. Um, you know, back in the Botany 101 days, and to the point where I was basically mimicking his videos. I came out and said, I did wrong, and I think that's something that I kind of do this purposely. I tell you my past stories about my mistakes. I tell you um, stuff like the Styx Hexenhammer thing. I tell you, I'll make a video where I'm crying and, cringy or not, it just had to be done because after that video, I felt a lot better. Um, I want my audience to see me as just another person. A person they like to listen to, but a person nonetheless. Um, I don't want to see my future fan base, go out of their way and like yell at people for disagreeing with me, as we're seeing in the right now. Because as you guys know, if you disagree with a right wing pundit right now, you're obviously a paid shill, which that title in and of itself is basically super redundant, considering that you can't really be a shill if you're not getting paid. But I want people to know my flaws. I want people to know that I'm not infallible, that I'm a person and am a fallible person. I'm not trying to say that these other people don't, but I would also say that these other people aren't as open and don't act or use their YouTube account as more of an open book like I do. Um, I like telling people about not necessarily myself, but telling people my flaws. I've told people how I used to have to constantly wear a mask around people, constantly kind of camouflaging myself like a chameleon because I was too afraid to speak out. Not afraid, but I guess uncomfortable in a way to speak my actual mind. And now that I've relinquished all that, and now that I've been more open and honest, I feel like my videos have only been improving. I can't believe I wasted 6 months basically acting as though I was a full-fledged libertarian and then doubting myself every time I hit stop recording on this Logitech webcam software. I'm being completely honest with you guys. I go on like a 35-minute rant. I'd stop the video after that, and then I'd go, should I even be putting this up because it's really going to piss people off in a few months when I say I'm not a libertarian. Now, as you guys know, I basically said, I'm not a libertarian anymore. I'd consider myself slightly liberal. Usually when I take any political test now that plots you, I'm pretty much right on the divider line between right-leaning libertarian and left-leaning libertarian in terms of like social democrat as opposed to like unbridled laissez-faire capitalism. But this isn't really going to go over well for the right in the long run because, Stefan Molyneux already had gone through a court case because he was listening in to patients, I believe, because his wife was a therapist. So scandals like this arise, and then these, lemming fanboys, basically, go out and defend this guy tooth and nail when really there's nothing to defend. It was just like the Milo Yiannopoulos thing. I didn't really see the brunt of it because I'm not really making that much of a dent on YouTube. At least not yet. But it wasn't too uncommon to see people dispute facts. Now, I will take into account, some of that was edited, but after reviewing the clip a couple times, I came to the conclusion that, it wasn't that far edited. It kind of spoke for itself in a way. But when these people defend people that do wrong, and more so basically defend the wrongdoings of the people more so, that they enjoy listening to or getting opinions from, well, they make the movement look ridiculous. Like Milo's implication that pederasty is basically okay between homosexual couples. I had people I knew personally defending stuff like that. And it just made the entire alt-right movement look like a cringe fest. Look like a bunch of fucking loons. So stuff like this makes it look like a cult. Anyways, that's all I really have to say. Until next time.